Did you know that every major company in China, every single one, has a Communist Party cell embedded within it? Not symbolic, not optional, actually legally required. They ensure that no business, no matter how powerful, could ever operate outside of the party's grip. Always watching, always influencing, and always ensuring absolute loyalty to the state. Now, this is just one example out of the several we will be investigating today, looking at some of the most extreme examples of government of our time and comparing them to works of dystopian cyberpunk fiction. Are we aimlessly sleepwalking into these terrifying futures? And what would it take to make things for the better? Some of the examples today might surprise or even shock you. We're going to dive deep today in this video. So, are you ready, comrade? Let's begin. Tell a man in his 30s that he's the second coming of Christ, and he'll likely believe you. This is Nayib Bukele. He's the leader of El Salvador, a nation that, until very recently, was statistically the homicide capital of the world. Despite being one of the smallest countries in the Americas, its streets were plagued by gang violence, and its countryside, still reeling from a post-Civil War society, grappled with lawless instability. El Salvador was a shining example of a nation in turmoil. Bukele's background is interesting. He worked for his father's advertising company, which played a key role in helping the Farabundi Marti National Liberation Front win back-to-back elections through campaigns he had a hand in building. Observing and learning from the sidelines, he planned his own campaign. Then, amid countless corruption trials and valiant efforts for free and fair elections, Nayib Bukele stood for office and won. At 37, Bukele became El Salvador's youngest ever president, promising to end gang violence and restore order to what was once the most notorious country in the world. His leadership has been defined by a militarized crackdown on crime, mass incarceration, and sweeping constitutional changes. Bukele's state of exception was passed in parliament under the watchful eyes of armed soldiers. He had his troops storm the chamber, overseeing as politicians signed the bill into law, and it passed with 0 no votes and 0 abstentions. The bill was simple. If authorities suspected someone of being in a gang, they could arrest, detain, and practically sentence them on the spot. The army and police were given absolute Judge Dredd-esque power.
Plan Bukele was a 30-day state of emergency, but since then, it's been extended 22 times and counting. It suspended a wide range of constitutional rights, from freedom of association and assembly, to privacy and communications, to being informed of the reason for arrests.
It's not difficult to draw a cyberpunk or sci-fi comparison here. 2000 AD's Judge Dredd instantly springs to my mind. A world where judges replace the entire judicial system, acting as law enforcement, prosecution, and executioners all at once. No courts, no lawyers. Sentences are handed down at the moment of the crime. No witnesses questioned, no evidence gathered. Just instant justice, often in the form of immediate death or life in the notorious ISO cubes. The state of exemption led to the arrest of over 70,000 people, many without trial. His new 40,000 capacity mega prison centralizes gang control but raises serious human rights concerns. The direct comparisons with Judge Dredd and Bukele's El Salvador are telling. In both cases, incarceration is the ultimate crime deterrent. Due process is secondary to the need of order. Both systems replace conventional justice with an iron fist approach, swift, ruthless, and absolute. El Salvador is still technically a democracy, but Bukele's growing grip on power suggests a system itching towards autocracy. He has removed Supreme Court judges, altered the constitution, and secured re-election despite term limits. His mega prison is a real-world ISO cube. His police act as law on site, and his government is consolidating power under the guise of national security. Now, is this man just some hyped-up crypto bro Nepo baby? Or is he yet another political elite who believes he has a divine right to rule over his people? The real question is, now that this leader has gained total control over his country in the name of public safety, will he ever give that control back? I'm not sure.
I love you too. I love you too.
This is Elon Musk. He is the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and X, formerly Twitter. And he has spent the last decade building an empire that stretches from social media to space colonization. His influence spans multiple sectors: technology, finance, AI, and even politics. Musk's background is noteworthy. Born in South Africa, he moved to the United States where he co-founded companies like Zip2 and PayPal. His ventures have always aimed at pushing the boundaries of technology and invention. Recently, Musk has been in the news for his $97.4 billion bid to take over OpenAI, aiming to revert the organization to its non-profit roots. This move has sparked debates about the future of artificial intelligence and corporate influence. But one of Musk's most controversial moves was his $44 billion acquisition of Twitter, which he rebranded as X. The purchase wasn't just about owning a social media platform. No. It was about controlling the flow of information. With X, Musk now has unprecedented influence over digital speech, political discourse, and global narratives. A free speech champion or a digital overlord? That depends on who you ask. Having recently been appointed by President Trump to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, a role humorously named after the popular Doge meme, this appointment, combined with his access to government contracts, easily makes him one of the most powerful individuals alive. That is why it's not difficult to draw an immediate comparison between Musk and the character Peter Weyland from the Alien franchise. Weyland, portrayed by Guy Pearce, is the founder of Weyland Corporation, a visionary tycoon obsessed with advancing humanity through technology. In the Alien lore, Weyland unveils his grand vision, using solar panels on the moon to beam unlimited energy to Earth, promising to end energy scarcity and reshape the global economy. Sound familiar? The dream of colonizing Mars is Musk's personal Prometheus mission, driven by his belief that humanity must become a multi-planetary species. Just like Weyland, Musk's vision is both awe-inspiring and terrifying. One man's dream could reshape the destiny of billions. There's one more comparison to make here. If SpaceX successfully lands humans on Mars during Trump's second term, or potentially his third and fourth term if the political tides shift, then Musk could very well become the first governor of the United States Martian colony. In Total Recall, the ruthless corporate overlord Cohaagen controls the Mars colony, restricting access to oxygen and ruling with an iron fist. If Musk gets his ass to Mars and establishes the first human settlement, would he be a benevolent leader? Or would he end up as Mars's first corporate dictator, a free-thinking pioneer, or a hungry despot? That's the real question. Total Recall and the Alien franchise aren't what we would call cyberpunk on first glance, but when we look at the underbelly of the hard sci-fi aspects of Alien and the corporate power aligned with the stark realities of mind manipulation and rebellious uprisings of Total Recall, we see that the similarities aren't that far away from how William Gibson envisioned his future in the Sprawl series. We don't get to see much, if any, of the street level back on Earth in either story, but I'm willing to bet and happy to imagine that they are both as much aligned to Gibson as that of Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, or RoboCop. This is Vladimir Putin. As the president of Russia, Putin has crafted an image of a strong, unyielding leader steering his country through the tumultuous waters of global politics. However, beneath this facade lies a complex web of state control, corruption, and a blatant disregard for ethical norms. Russia's state-sponsored doping program has been a significant scandal in international sports. Investigations revealed that from at least late 2011 to August 2015, Russian authorities implemented a disappearing positive test methodology, systematically covering up positive doping tests across various sports. This led to Russia being banned from the Olympics and facing ongoing scrutiny in subsequent years. Beyond the sports arena, Russia has a history of conducting experiments on its own citizens without due process. From psychological manipulations to medical trials, the state's willingness to prioritize its objectives over individual rights is evident. Putin's inner circle comprises individuals who have amassed significant wealth through state-controlled assets. By maintaining loyalty among these oligarchs, Putin ensures his grip on power remains unchanged. Estimates of his personal wealth vary, with some reports suggesting he could be one of the wealthiest individuals globally, though the exact figures remain elusive. It's not difficult to draw a comparison here to the dystopian world of Deus Ex, a video game series that delves into themes of corporate oligarchy and human augmentation. In Deus Ex, powerful corporations exert immense control over society, often conducting unethical experiments to enhance human abilities, blurring the lines between human and machine. In both scenarios, a centralized authority exerts control over various sectors, often prioritizing power over ethical considerations. Both Putin's regime and the corporations in Deus Ex have been implicated in conducting experiments on humans without proper consent, reflecting a disregard for individual autonomy. Dissenting voices are often silenced, whether through political means in Russia or corporate dominance in the game's universe. While Deus Ex isn't a work of television, film, or literature, its narrative offers a visceral and important warning to the political world. It serves as a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked power, the erosion of ethical standards, and the potential consequences of a society where technological advancements are pursued without moral considerations. Is this man a patriotic leader safeguarding his nation's interest? Or is he simply an autocrat whose actions mirror the dystopian warnings of our fictional narratives? Since assuming power in 2011, Kim Jong-un has maintained North Korea's status as one of the most secretive and repressive regimes in the world. Under his rule, the nation has continued its strict control over information, pervasive surveillance, and severe punishment of dissent. In George Orwell's 1984, the state enforces absolute control over information, history, and even thought, creating an omnipresent sense of surveillance and fear. The direct comparisons between Kim Jong-un's North Korea and Orwell's 1984 are telling. In 1984, the state perpetuates a constant state of war to justify its authoritarian rule. North Korea has maintained a similar stance, emphasizing external threats to legitimize its oppressive policies. Just as the party in 1984 rewrites history and censors information, North Korea bans external media and restricts internet access to prevent citizens from being exposed to foreign influences. Both regimes employ pervasive surveillance to instill fear and suppress dissent, ensuring that citizens remain loyal and obedient. Under Kim Jong-un, North Korea continues to operate a network of political prison camps known as Kwanliso, where perceived enemies of the state are subject to forced labor, torture, and execution. These camps are reminiscent of the forced labor camps in 1984, where individuals who defined the party were sent for either re-education or elimination. North Korea is a sad example of national paranoia after the hands of oppression from outside sources. For generations, Korea had been subjugated, first by the Qing dynasty, then brutally colonized by Imperial Japan from 1910 to 1945. Under Japanese rule, Korean culture, language, and national identity were systematically erased, and its people were exploited for labor and war efforts. When Japan fell, Korea was immediately divided by outside powers, the United States and the Soviet Union, splitting a once unified nation along the 38th parallel. In the North, the idea of self-reliance became more than just a political philosophy. It was a survival mechanism. To many, communism wasn't just a system, it was a weapon against imperialism, a means to break the chains of foreign control and a vision of a future where Koreans ruled their own destiny. Kim Il-sung revered as a wartime hero, led the movement that sought to unify Korea under a strong, independent and self-sustaining system, free from the West's capitalist influence. In this narrative, the North's defiance wasn't just about communism, it was about never again bending to the will of another nation. But like many of these nations' stories, the vulnerable fell to the few, and the few could never give up the power over the vulnerable. 1984's bleak and chilling story is one that North Koreans should read and awaken to. But guess what? The book is banned in North Korea. And that is probably the saddest definition of irony. This is Saudi Arabia, a nation where public executions are state-sponsored events, dissent is crushed with brutal efficiency, and the ruling elite control both the narrative and the people with an iron grip. In the 1987 film The Running Man, the government keeps the public distracted and obedient through violent spectacle, a brutal game show where criminals and dissidents are hunted down and executed for the entertainment of the masses. The regime doesn't just use violence as a means of control, it turns it into propaganda, making executions a public event to remind the people, if you step out of line, you will be next. Saudi Arabia doesn't need a dystopian game show, they have the real thing. The direct comparisons between Saudi Arabia and The Running Man are telling. In The Running Man, executions aren't hidden away, they're publicly broadcasted to entertain and pacify the masses. In Saudi Arabia, executions take place in broad daylight, often in busy public squares like Riyadh's infamous Chop Chop Square, where beheadings are carried out with an executioner's sword. Hundreds gather to watch as the condemned kneel before the blade, sometimes for crimes as severe as murder, sometimes for acts as small as criticizing the government. In Saudi Arabia, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman carefully curates his image, presenting himself as a reformer to the West while ruling with an iron fist at home. The Saudi regime owns and controls all of the major media outlets in Saudi, ensuring that the only version of reality people hear is the one the monarchy allows. Criticism is forbidden. Questioning the Crown Prince or his policies can lead to imprisonment, torture, or worse. Even after the CIA concluded that the Crown Prince had ordered Khashoggi's murder, no serious consequences followed, because Saudi oil and arms deals matter more than justice.
$525 million, that's peanuts for you. Should have increased it. $880 million.
How long will this dystopian reality last? In The Running Man, the illusion of control shatters when the people finally see the truth, and the regime is built on lies, violence, and manipulation. Saudi Arabia's monarchy has survived for decades by maintaining absolute control over information, enforcing terror through public executions, and eliminating anyone who dares challenge its authority.
A psychopath with no empathy, doesn't feel emotion, never learned from his experience, and we have witnessed atrocities and crimes committed by this killer.
Rewatching The Running Man today is like staring into a crystal ball. It has everything that I think is just absolutely parallel with the cyberpunk narrative. I know that some of you might disagree with that statement, but I urge you to watch it again. We have deepfake AI, forced drug administration, 2 obscene levels of society, awesome tech, a rebellious background, and spandex! It's a movie you should probably watch this weekend. This is the United States of America, a country where political theatre disguises corporate feudalism, where the illusion of choice is maintained by a 2-party system, yet both parties are bankrolled by the same billionaires, the same industries, and the same shadowy financial interests. From Big Pharma to Wall Street, from the NRA to Big Tech, corporate giants manipulate laws, policies, and elections to ensure their profits keep rising while working class wages remain stagnant. The Democrats will tell you they're for the people. The Republicans will tell you that they're for freedom. The truth? They are both for whoever is signing their checks. In the Cyberpunk tabletop RPG, the megacorporations have replaced governments, turning democracy into an illusion. Citizens work, live, and die at the mercy of massive, unregulated corporate power, which dictates every aspect of life, from education to law enforcement. It's a world where corporations own politicians, the media manufactures consent, and the law is written by those who profit from it. In the US, corporations like Pfizer, Amazon, and JP Chase funnel billions into political campaigns, influencing laws that benefit them while hollowing out the middle class. The NRA funnels millions into Congress, ensuring that gun manufacturers continue to profit while American children participate in active shooter drills. Big Pharma spends billions lobbying lawmakers to keep drug prices absurdly high, ensuring Americans pay 10 times more for insulin than any other developed nation. 10 times more for insulin.
Drug companies contribute a lot of money to politicians to sway their opinions.
And according to the Center for Responsive Politics, drug companies give 25 times more money to lawmakers than does the NRA.
In the US, corporate criminals never go to jail, but whistleblowers and investigative journalists do. The Citizens United versus FEC ruling in 2010 was the final nail in the coffin for real democracy. The Supreme Court decision officially allowed unlimited corporate donations in elections, making politicians nothing more than well-dressed puppets for their financial overlords. This was when America fully became a cyberpunk dystopia. Now, of course, these are observations based on taking a certain subjective viewpoint. You are more than welcome to disagree with me in the comments, and of course it is unrealistic to imagine that each and every one of my examples are totally destined for a dystopian outcome. But it is important to have these conversations, and I believe in my own tiny, weeny, whiny way that in order to progress our society, we have to allow for everything to be challenged, no matter how exaggerated or slightly sensationalized. Science fiction has a countless amount of examples. It would have been impossible for me to have gone into each and every one of them. Some notable special mentions, however, have to go to the following: the fascist utopia in Starship Troopers, the surveillance AI-driven state in Psychopaths, the paranoid child experimenting ex-nuclear bombed military junta of Akira, the savage private police incorporation OCP in RoboCop, the AI-driven global elite known as the Patriots in the Metal Gear Solid series, and many, many, many more. If you have any interest in ones that I haven't mentioned here, be sure to drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear about them. So what on earth can we do to change all of this? Well, personally, I believe that art comes to the rescue. Think about it for a second. Let's look at artificial intelligence, right? We're all living through this age of insane technological breakthroughs. New AI models every single week, it feels. But because of films like The Matrix, The Terminator, films like AI, films like Ex Machina, we are able to put pressure onto our own governments to make sure that artificial intelligence is regulated. That need for regulation and the paranoia that we all have about AIs taking over us and killing us all hasn't come from our moral fiber, hasn't come from our schooling, it's come from film. We've watched films where that's happened and we're saying, uh-oh, this is going to occur, we better stop it from happening. Now that needs to happen on a political level as well. It's important that we consume content that enlightens us. All right, rant over. I really can't wait to discuss this in the comments. I think it will be a really hot topic, but please have an open heart and an open mind and be polite at all times. Politics is very divisive, but let's be better than that and let's be cool with each other. Let's learn from one another and let's respect our opinions, our backgrounds, and our current environments. It's so important to have these debates, but let's be nice. Let's be kind. If you enjoyed today's video, I'll be doing regular deep dives like this into various aspects of cyberpunk and dystopian futures and drawing parallels with the current world. It's something that I find fascinating. It's something that I find super exciting. So yeah, I would love it if you stuck around. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It's the only way the YouTube algorithm will ever find me. And yeah, I really do hope to see you again on the next video. And there will be some more experiment videos coming up as well. So if you've seen my videos before where we programmed quantum computers to create Doom-style maps using artificial intelligence, and where we also used AI to create a Python program to hack financial websites, there'll be more cool stuff like that as well. I don't know if you can see, but guess what? I bought myself a 3D printer, so I'm gonna be using that in the next couple of weeks to be making some cool cyberpunkery stuff. I'm really, really excited. It's gonna be rad. Yeah, I hope you stick around. Please like and subscribe. Cheers. Woo-hoo-hoo. That was a good one. Great stuff. Super fun.
Warning, banned location, override, Talon Series system compromised.